Hey guys, welcome back. Mr. Will here for April 23rd, 2020 for the group Denominators. We have been modeling situations involving a constant rate of change. We have done that in the past. We're going to make the move away from perpendicular and parallel lines, and we're going to be making scatter plots. Bum, bum, bum. Scatter plots and writing equations to model data. So first off, behind me is a scatter plot. With scatter plots, we often talk about how variables relate to each other. This is called a correlation, okay? How different bits of information and data, how they go together. Now, there are a couple different types of correlation that we can look at. There's a positive correlation, and that is represented with this graph, how our data is trending in an upward slope. That is one variable increases, so does the other. Height and shoe size are an example of one's height increases, so does its shoe size, typically. Okay. Now, another type of correlation is a negative correlation. Here it is when you have a downward slope. A negative correlation as one variable increases, the other decreases. Time spent studying and time spent on video games are negatively correlated. As the study time increases, your time spent on video games decreases. Now, looks like I'm blocking this a little bit. Another an example of correlation is no correlation. And here you just see the dots kind of all over the place on this graph. There is no apparent relationship between the two variables here. Video game scores and shoe size, they don't have a whole lot to do with each other. So they would likely give you a graph that looks like this with just the dots all over the place, okay? So let's look at an example. I took a picture from our textbook here, and it says, using the scatter plots, predict a reasonable test score for 4.5 hours of studying and 4.5 hours of TV watched. Now, here I have in graph A test scores along the y-axis and hours studying along the x-axis, okay? And you would say that this is a positive correlation. So the hours spent and the test scores, those two variables, as one goes up, the other goes up, okay? Makes sense, right? Here on the other side, looks like this data is has a negative correlation. The hours watched of TV and test scores. Okay, the more hours of TV you watch, as that goes up, test scores go down. So, can you determine a reasonable test score of 4 hours of studying? Well, if I studied for 4.5, that would be 5. So 4.5 would be right about in here. So I would say maybe around, I don't know, 72. Do you see how I did that? Hours of studying, test scores, boom. I would put it right about there. You might argue with me a little bit this way or that, but it's okay. It's a scatter plot. And then on this side, if I watch 4 hours of television, so this would be the 5. So 4.5 would be in between 4 and 5. I would go up. I would say it'd stop right about there-ish. Okay, again, it's a scatter plot, give or take a little bit. I would say about a 77, maybe. So reading these scatter plots, they can help us predict how people will do and also help us determine the correlation between different variables. Now, today you have a longer assignment. It's a number of questions and pages, but you have 2 days to do it. I'm going to give it to you today, and I'd like you to work on it today, and it's due at the end of the day tomorrow. Don't forget, you have to check in at least once a week during office hours. I've seen some of you, but if you have not checked in, please make sure you check in, ask questions, say hi. Also be working on your IXL lesson and your problem of the week that is also due Friday. Ask questions, work hard, and I'll see you tomorrow.